Hello, my name is Dante Renee, and welcome to the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more. Like tonight's film, 1979's Star Virgin. This is 1979's Star Virgin. I absolutely am just completely obsessed with the poster art for this film, and this is the cover of the DVD. This is put out by Vinegar Syndrome, and this is the back here. And Vinegar Syndrome puts this out even with a commentary. Scanned and restored in 2K from 35mm Vault Elements, with an audio commentary with the director and producer. Truly unbelievable treatment by Vinegar Syndrome to unknown films, lost films. And in this particular case, Star Virgin is an X-rated film that on the front here has a model. I believe she was in Hustler magazine. Carrie Clark was her name. Carrie Clark, right here. But just an unbelievable artwork. So let's get into Star Virgin here. Essentially, what we have is a very unique movie, adult movie involving basically commentary on the aftermath of humanity dying away and there now being robots and alternate, kind of space dimensions, and what we know as sci-fi is now reality. And we have one human being who was birthed in a test tube, one human being alive in all of the galaxy, and that is Carrie Clark. That is Star Virgin. And she is unaware of what made humans humans. She's unaware predominantly of human sexuality. And so what happens here is that reality becomes the wraparound story for Star Virgin. And we have her robot named Mentor, who looks like kind of a poor man's R2-D2 in some form or fashion. And he tries to expose her to human sexuality in the past by telling her a variety of lustful tales. And as each tale happens, the wraparound story changes a bit, and the Star Virgin starts to become more and more impacted. So, in essence, this is an anthology film, and it's made up of a group of stories. And of course, we also have the wraparound story as well. In this film, we have a very unique kind of an Adam and Eve beginning of humanity tale, but it takes place in the 50s, and it takes place in an amusement park of sorts called the Garden of Eden. And we even have the snake there and the fruit. We have a black and white story, a horror story involving vampires, and a character in a Richard Nixon mask. I know that I reviewed a movie on this YouTube page, Horror House on Highway 5, but that also had a Richard Nixon mask. So I'm really getting inundated with Richard Nixon masks right now. So it's pretty wild. But it's in black and white, and it's a silent horror movie. And then we have the third tale involving a tired football player being resuscitated by cheerleaders. And then we go to a strip club and a wild, exotic show involving, I believe, queefing and snakes and a massive back room, more than a lap dance in the back room if you pay some more money. This is Star Virgin. Wow. Anthology film. Let's get into Star Virgin here in 1979. Again, this artwork I'm completely obsessed with. Vinegar Syndrome puts this out on DVD only. There's no Blu-ray for this, and it looks awesome. You can see the film elements in there, and it just looks great. Let's start with the music for this film. This is a film that has such spectacular music. In the credits of the film, we do have some people who are credited as making the music for this film, and This is a film that is absolutely filled to the brim with music. There is music all the time. I mean, one of the anthology stories is a silent film, so that's filled with music. Um, we have everything from 50s music to orchestrated horror music with the sound design of lightning and thunder. We also have the Toccato in F minor, I believe it is the kind of the well-known Transylvanian Dracula classical piece by Bach. Um, and we also have some other classical pieces in here as well. We also have some groovy, funky, um, kind of electronic music, disco-y, porno-y type music, but it has some interesting elements, some interesting weird sound design, and some interesting instruments interplaying in there, kind of playing with the genres and the styles of the music in ways and variations that I've never heard before. This is not library music. This is not lazy sounding music at all. There's a lot of intricacy to this music, and there's tons of it. Um, we also have some kind of jazzy stripper type music that you would hear in a sultry magic show strip club, and of course we have some funk and jazz basses as well, and then also some unbelievably weird sound design in the wraparound story in space. Weird sounds. And the sound design also has some comedy in it in the black and white horror story. And we also have um, a piece of music in the menu screen, but it starts the film. And I could listen to that piece of music for hours. It's intricate, deep, sci fi, emotional, intense, dramatic, and thought provoking. I don't know how to describe this to you. You're probably thinking I'm completely out of my mind at this point, but seriously, that piece of music was unbelievable. I would love to have that piece of music, on a CD. I'd love to have the whole soundtrack on a CD. So when we look at the style and the cinematography, I mean, this is an adult film from the late '70s, and adult films definitely, X-rated films in the 70s and 80s and in this time frame are definitely not reminiscent of what is happening today at all. There is a ton of production design in this film, amazing angles in the first story. The 50s story. We have some great shots of the car, great shots outside of the fruit, of the tree, of nature, sun glares, sunbeams. Feels really warm, feels really hot out there. We have awesome low budget sci-fi design with the wraparound story and outfits for the Star Virgin. Revealing, sexy outfits that could be in a centerfold of Hustler. I mean, since she was a Hustler model, it says, and it advertises that in the credits, by the way, and even on the box, but it's right there in the credits, in the opening credits. We also have some wild cheerleader outfits in this film. Lots of variety and diversity in styles because of all of the different worlds that these stories take you to. Um, in terms of the sexuality of the film, we do have ejaculation, we do have orgies. We have a kind of a massive orgy at the end of the film with like 10 guys and 2 girls. We also have just a guy and a girl. We also have a little bit of lesbian stuff. We also have masturbation. There is a twist surprise at the end of the movie involving the wraparound story and masturbation that is actually hinted at in the cover of this movie. You're probably wondering how. Well, there is something going on in the cover right here. If you look very, very carefully, when you just look at it, you think, what is it? But then when you look at it at the end of the movie, you're like, what the hell is that? It's shocking. Stuff gets there's times things are lighter, like in the '50s story with the sex, and then there's times where things get really hardcore in the last segment of the anthology at the strip club and in the back room of the strip club. there is dildos and fingers and things going into butts, oral, all of it. Now, the interesting thing is that it really does. There are variations in the first story, in the 50s story in Eden, and in the horror story we have some comedy in those worlds, and we have some interesting comedy in the wraparound story as well with the robot and the girl. Now, the interesting thing is that the dialogue also has some interesting commentary on humanity, us playing sports, our theology, our views of sexuality and spirituality and the devil, our kind of our views on female anatomy. There are some mentions of what a hot quote unquote pussy is, in one of the anthology segments. But there's some very interesting satire and humor in here as well, and even some plays off of Richard Nixon in The Mask in one of the stories. So some very interesting things going on here in this film. This is a film that really feels like those sexploitation sci-fi films that are softcore, just gone hardcore, and also bringing in a ton of different styles with horror, black and white, silent film, cheerleading, football, sexploitation movie, sci-fi movie, a 50s sexploitation movie, which could remind you of like Lemon Popsicle series and stuff, and some of the wildest uses of the fruit in the Garden of Eden that I've seen, and predominantly peaches. But this is a wildly fun and interesting and diverse, and just a wild fun 78 minutes, and it's sexy and it's erotic. Some of the stuff, like I said, is pretty wild, and typically that's what happens in adult films as the movie goes on. Just like a horror film, the end of a horror film is when the kills really get crazy, and at the end of an adult film typically is when the sex really gets out of control and there's tons more people involved in a big massive orgy. Well, in this particular film, that's what happens. I found Carrie Clark is awesome. I never heard of her before. She's very attractive, and some of the other actresses in the film as well just had great vibes, great energy, and a great look. I wanted to also mention that this is a film that epitomizes that old show USA Up All Night, and just the pinball games of the 70s and the 80s, and the backlights of the pinball games, the sexy sci-fi horror, weird, late at night popcorn feel. I mean, you get all of those vibes here if you love that kind of. I reviewed on this YouTube channel Flesh Gordon versus the Cosmic Cheerleaders, which was actually done by the same director who directed this movie, Star Virgin. If you love that vibe and you just want it harder, Star Virgin gives you all of that. But Star Virgin gives you all of that atmosphere, all of those feelings and those vibes, and that late night sci-fi weirdness and goodness and sexiness, and makes it hard. And there's real sex in it. So this is an example. And as the film goes on, there's great sex scenes in the film. In particular, my favorite is the story involving the cheerleaders, and even the first one with Adam and Eve. So here it is, folks. Star Virgin, that music at the beginning of the film, oh my gosh, is it good. Star Virgin 1979 by Vinegar Syndrome. Thank you so much for watching the 10 Room Bizarre YouTube page, where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more, like Star Virgin from 1979. Thank you so much, and have a great night.